people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, and now it's time for another installment of what has fast become the most popular segment here on the channel. Not the Ring IQ hate mail, but the Ring IQ mailbag, which is a bit more friendly. Tim Townsend, friend of the channel, said, Jules, I also think that... This was in reference to my recent contention that MVP has signed so many girls, they haven't left any girls for anybody else to sign, any quality girls, and in doing so, they've placed a big burden on their shoulders to promote all of these women and keep them active, many of which used to be with Matchroom. To that, Tim said, Jules, I think also that all of the girls Eddie has promoted and done a lot for none of them, when they left, never really appreciated him. Ellie Scottney, Chantel Cameron, who he actually created a tournament for, said thanks or anything, just complained. Matchroom put women's boxing on the map long before MVP, so he probably thinks it's not worth it anymore. Tim might be onto something, because for a long stretch, Matchroom was hosting the most robust stable of women boxers of any major promotional outfit, more than anybody else in the industry, and so many of those girls who Matchroom picked up readily jumped ship in search for greener pastures. It didn't really start with MVP, when Boxer gets the Sky Sports deal as a result of Matchroom leaving that platform. Savannah Marshall, Natasha Jonas. All Natasha did at Matchroom was complain about how Katie Taylor is Eddie's prized stallion, how she doesn't want to play second fiddle to her. And Chantel Cameron was the same way, so that when Savannah and Natasha jumped ship from Matchroom to go over there to Boxer, when Chantel Cameron jumped ship from Matchroom to go over to Queensbury, complaining the whole time. Because remember, she went there first, before she migrated over to MVP. She would often say that Eddie Hearn would never risk putting Katie Taylor in there with her, saying this on several occasions, that Matchroom would never make that fight. You fast forward, and not only did Matchroom make that fight once, they made it twice. They made it, but that was never enough for Chantel Cameron. So that when so many of these women boxers that Matchroom didn't have to pick up, didn't have to promote, didn't have to make that effort, turn their backs on the promotion, might have left a sour taste in Eddie's mouth, to where he's not so quick to sign women boxers anymore, because it is a labor of love after all. Many of these women boxers, as talented as they are not ticket sellers. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom aspired to do for many of these women what they did for Katie Taylor, many of which didn't have Katie Taylor's following, but they tried. And it seems to a lot of people like me, like Tim Townsend, that those girls didn't appreciate the effort from Matchroom, how easily they decided to jump ship to go somewhere else. So that now maybe Matchroom's not as quick to sign new female fighters to fill the void. Sandy Ryan is out with child. Matchroom's female stable is down to Sky Nicholson, Shannon Ryan, Molly McCann, and Elif Nur Turan. Just 4 girls, where they used to promote more girls than that. So maybe Tim is onto something. Maybe Eddie Hearn feels burned by many of the women boxers he used to promote, and now he doesn't see the point. Matchroom got Ellie Scottney to 2 of the 4 major titles, but in the end, in spite of the work they put in her career, she still left. So how do you imagine the people at Matchroom felt about it? They didn't stand in the way and try to stop her. If that's what she felt was best, they let her do it. But how do you imagine Matchroom felt about it? That she decided not to stick it out with them. So now many of these women boxers, the really good ones, are over there at MVP, which has fast become the flagship promotional outfit for women boxers all around the world. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. So many of those girls that used to be promoted by Matchroom, like Alicia Baumgartner, Ellie Scottney, Ramla Ali. They are at MVP now, and they have become MVP's burden. Now MVP has to pick up where Matchroom left off. And I know that For all their best intentions, promoting a stable primarily comprised of women boxers can't be easy. Is it my imagination, or does it seem like now the women have less visibility because they're all relying on one promoter to get them out there, whereas before they were spread out? Some were at Matchroom, 1 or 2 were at Top Rank, a few more at Boxer. They were, in fact, more spread out, so that every time you turned around, you saw some girl boxing on somebody's show, whereas now it seems that in bottlenecking all of the female talent in the sport, MVP has painted themselves into a corner. To see these girls now, you have to wait on the next MVP show, whereas before, you might have seen one on Top Rank, a few on Matchroom, a few at Boxer, maybe 1 or 2 at Queensberry. It's all down to MVP now to get all these girls out there, and for all the leaps and strides that women's boxing has made in the last 10 years, they're still not as popular as their male counterparts. The majority of them aren't. Save maybe Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Clarissa Shields. The casuals may be aware of them, but what about all these other girls? I hope that MVP can work this situation and get it together, because it does sort of feel like these girls have less visibility now than they did before, since so many of them are relying on one promotional outfit to get them out there and get them active. We'll see what happens. Men's welterweight news. It was out of love. Romero talks about giving Teofimo Lopez a title shot. A fight between longtime friends, Romero and Teofimo Lopez, is official for August 22nd. And while Teofimo might downplay the friendship now that their fight is on, Rolly the Prophet doesn't deny his enduring love for him. Here, Rolly explains how he knew this moment would come to pass in an interview with Mike Coppinger on behalf of Ring Magazine. Rolly on knowing Teofimo a long time and his thoughts of him. I love Teofimo with all my heart, and honestly, like he said, I told him in the back room when we were getting ready for a fight, I said, you're going to get another opportunity, Teo. You're going to move up to 47, you're going to get another opportunity, and by grace, for some reason, I was the one that was able to give him that opportunity. It was out of love. Careful that Rolly isn't being facetious. In his own way, he did end up giving Teofimo the shot that he didn't have to give him, because Teo's not as mandatory, and Teo's coming off a loss at 140. He didn't earn a shot at a title at 147. Rolly doesn't have to give it to him, he's choosing to, but why? Is it out of love, like he says? It's out of desperation. Rolly Romero explored quite a few options before we got to this point, all of which fell through. A Pacquiao fight, a Haney fight, a rematch with Brian Garcia, none of which materialized. All the while, Rolly's been on the shelf for over a year, so that when Teofimo Lopez pops up as a potential opponent, why the fuck not? Might as well. It's either that or his mandatory challenger, Jack Catterall, that doesn't make for as big a fight, pay out as big a purse as a Lopez fight would, on whether they've remained in close contact as of late. I mean, we went time without talking and all that stuff, but he has a family, he has kids, and I've got my own stuff to worry about. You know how it is, as an adult, you can't be on top of everybody all the time. I'm my friend's son's godfather. I talk to him once a year, but I know for a fact that I call that man. He's going to be at my doorstep if I really need him, and vice versa. And that's how it is. Whether I'm in contact with you or not, you still be at somebody's doorstep when they need you, right? Because that's how some relationships are. You don't need to be in contact every day on what it feels like to fight someone that he's friends with. I mean, people hurt each other that they love and they care for every day. So people you don't love can't hurt you. Rolly the philosopher, Rolly the wise, Rolly the benevolent. Maybe his friendship with Teofimo had some small part to do with why he's doing this fight, but I think the biggest part of it is Rolly hasn't fought in over a year. He explored all these other options, none of which materialized. So by the time Teofimo comes into it, you might as well. You're not busy with anything else.
I'm going to beat the living dog shit out of Rolly Romero. I think the most important part about this whole thing is really that what I did at 135 is what I see at 147. My mind is really set on this, guys. I'm not going to lie. And when my mind is set on something, I go out there and I take it. So with all that being said, I'm going to beat the living dog shit out of Romero.
So it would seem that Teofimo Lopez has already gotten his confidence back following that lopsided loss to Shakur Stevenson. How is it possible?
Who put the battery in his back?
That he could psychologically recover so fast and get his mojo back. It has everything to do with who he's fighting. Who he's fighting for an alphabet title at what will be his third weight. It's got everything to do with Rolly, who I've no doubts he's sparred many times on several occasions. He knows this guy.
It's the same with Teo and Rolly that it was with David and Zerto. The reason that David was so quick to move up to cruiser for a Zerto Ramirez fight was because he sparred the guy so many times.
And it's the same thing here. That's where Teo's all of a sudden confidence comes from.
That doesn't even mean that he's right.
But if he's got the chip back on his shoulder and he's talking trash, that has a lot to do with it. I think he's gonna win. I think he's gonna beat Rolly, and when he does, he'll be back in a prime position to pursue other big fights, bigger than this one, for bigger money.
Careful that you're not underestimating Rolly Romero.
The most that I can give Rolly Romero over Teofimo Lopez is that he's marginally bigger, likely punches, marginally harder. But this is still the same guy who was knocked out by Gervonta Davis, knocked out by Isaac Cruz, still the same guy who needed a gift decision over a senior citizen in Ishmael Barroso.
Most people think Rolly has turned over a new leaf because of his upset win over Ryan, but he fought a Ryan Garcia who couldn't use his Osterin, a Ryan Garcia who was under the magnifying glass and off the sauce, coming off a layoff.
Now he's the one coming off a long layoff, a year of inactivity, and the tables will have turned, because in late August, I anticipate Teo's gonna beat him and lift the WBA title from him.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, reacting to the recent signing of Johnny Fisher to Zuffa, O'Hara Davies stated, "Zuffa boxing is tactically dismantling Matchroom boxing. Fisher is a great signing."
The guy who couldn't beat Dave Allen?
Guy who goes by the name Axel Boxing responded by saying, now, dismantling and buying up the dead wood are two separate things altogether. In truth, the only reason that Johnny Fisher is over there is because Zuffa is willing to pay him substantially more than Matchroom would. And most wouldn't call that good business when you're paying more than Matchroom did for what are Matchroom castaways, fighters that Matchroom doesn't want anymore, like Edgar Berlanga, Richardson Hitchens, now Johnny Fisher.
You're telling me that because Zuffa signed those Matchroom castaways, they're dismantling Matchroom? Near as I can tell, they've alleviated them of a burden.
Of a headache.
This is how boxers sometimes give it away, that they don't know as much about this industry as they think they do. They know about the fighting and they know about the boxing, but the business,
That goes right over their heads.
all Zuffa's really doing in signing Johnny Fisher is picking up the dead weight that Matchroom didn't want anymore and paying him more than Matchroom.
Essentially, overpaying.
To which Joe Habib, friend to the channel, said, "It's funny how in boxing everybody overpays, but now all of a sudden it's a problem to certain fans when someone else they don't like is doing it. DAZN has been overpaying since they entered the sport 10 years ago and continues to do so, losing billions and never turning a profit. But when they were the ones doing it, nobody seemed to have a problem. Now that they're being outspent and can no longer afford to match those numbers, suddenly overpaying is an issue."
I feel like this was about me, Joe.
I feel like you watched my recent videos on this same subject and you wanted to address what I said without addressing me. So if you want to fucking dance, let's dance. I can only tell you now what I said before. This is definitely a win for Johnny Fisher and really any fighter being overpaid by Zuffa, because now they get to keep making big money, whether they're worth it or not. So it's not really a problem for them, and I don't think it's a problem for me and you.
Because this ain't gonna be on pay-per-view.
Zuffa is not inundating the market with box office fights the way all those promoters on DAZN are, so it's a win for us as well. It's not a problem.
Not for us.
But for Zuffa, it might be, because when you have people like O'Hara Davies claiming that Zuffa is now dismantling Matchroom by signing fighters they didn't want anymore, Johnny Fisher was a free agent. He was waiting for an offer from Matchroom to renew.
To extend.
And it doesn't look like he was going to get one from Matchroom, so that if Zuffa wants to pay this guy through the nose to come box for them, more power to them. But that's not a good long-term strategy. Paying an area-level fighter like Johnny above market value.
You're not dismantling Matchroom.
You know, Jai Opataya was a high-profile signing for Zuffa because he was a reigning champion at the time. But this is another free agent that Matchroom did not extend with.
They weren't trying to keep him.
Like they weren't trying to keep Edgar Berlanga or Richardson Hitchens. If you guys want to go, you can go. In pursuit of greener pastures, best wishes.
Joe Habib continued, did Eddie really need to say, even if it was double instead of 5 times, I still wouldn't have paid it? To me, that's like leaving a job, telling your boss you found a better opportunity with more money, and instead of saying, congratulations, I wish you the best, he responds, well, I don't think you're worth what they're paying you anyway.
But is he wrong, Joe? That's what's important. When Eddie Hearn says that Zuffa's paying Johnny Fisher above market value, is he right or is he right?
You know the answer.
Joe continued, sometimes the better response is simply, we couldn't afford to keep him at that price. Congratulations to him, and we wish him well. There's no need to throw in an extra jab on the way out. Why does he always feel the need to diminish someone every time they leave him? Just let them go and move on.
That's because you're focusing on Johnny Fisher, Joe. You really think this is about him when for Matchroom, it's about Zuffa.
They're not taking a shot at Johnny. It's not a jab at him, it's a jab at them. You guys are so far out of your league.
Do you understand how much money you're fucking off on an area-level fighter who couldn't beat Dave Allen? And this is how you're gonna show us up.
Did you forget how Dana White came into the boxing space criticizing all the existing game in town, trying to tell them how to do their jobs?
Did you forget that he said they don't think big enough? They don't have imagination?
So then how do you imagine that paying an area-level fighter like Johnny Fisher well above market value is gonna put the other game in town out of business? How is that doing a better job than Matchroom did?
They've appraised the value of a Johnny Fisher. They've seen what his ceiling is, they know how far he can go, and they're not going to pay through the nose for him, but you are.
Because you don't really know what you're doing.
For Eddie Hearn, that's what it's about. That's the point that he's making. It's not about taking a jab at Johnny, it's about taking a jab at Dana, at Zuffa. When you've got people like O'Hara Davies claiming that Zuffa is dismantling Matchroom by signing these fighters that Matchroom didn't want anymore,
You're gonna get upset at Eddie Hearn for adding context?
to recap, if Johnny Fisher can go over there and make a fuck ton of money, more power to him. And if Zuffa Boxing wants to provide us with these fights at no additional charge, well, that's a win too, for me and you.
No pay-per-view.
But if this is a problem for anybody, it's a problem for Zuffa, because this is not a long-term strategy. Paying above market value for fighters like him, you can do that now.
That you're the new kid in town and you're trying to make a splash, trying to make a statement, but down the line, it's all gonna boil down to know-how. Who knows how to sell boxing better?
Who knows how to identify and groom talent better in the sport of boxing?
That's what's gonna determine who runs the show, not overpaying orphaned fighters.